Thank you for listening to We Have Ways of Making You Talk. Sign up to our Patreon to receive bonus content, live streams, and our weekly newsletter with money off books and museum visits as well, plus early access to all live show tickets. That's patreon.com/wehaveways.
Looking for the right holiday outfits without breaking the bank? JCPenney is a one-stop shop for the whole family. Whether you're dressing up or dressing down, JCPenney has a great range of apparel for men, women, and kids. So you can spend less time doing this and more time doing this. Make your holidays count. JCPenney. Shop in store or jcp.com.
This episode is brought to you by Starry. When you drink Starry Lemon Lime Soda, every sip is a win. Perfect for game time or anytime. It's a crisp, refreshing lemon lime soda that's caffeine-free and bursting with flavor that makes you go, ah. Starry hits different. Find it in stores or online today.
Check out the next generation of smart glasses by Ray-Ban and Meta. Listen to music without muting the world around you with open-ear speakers. Or capture the world from your unique perspective with a built-in 12-megapixel camera. Now, you can live stream the moment straight from your glasses and even take calls hands-free without interrupting your flow. The latest tech combined with iconic style. The next generation of smart glasses by Ray-Ban and Meta.
Alarm! Alarm! Welcome to We Have Ways of Making You Talk with me, Al Murray, and James Holland, of course. And what are we trying to do? We're trying to get HX231 across the Atlantic. Will we succeed in this episode?
I don't know, because it started off as 2, went to 3, now it's 4.
I mean, there's every possibility that we never talk about anything else ever again. That it's just.
Well, I'll tell you something exciting, though, is I am talking
to
to Ed Gretton this afternoon and his father, who are the son and grandson of Peter Gretton.
Amazing.
They've got in touch. They've heard it. They're pleased.
God, brilliant.
Don't feel we disgraced ourselves in the memory of their father, grandfather.
Fantastic.
So that'll be interesting. So I shall be reporting back on that front.
Fantastic.
And I think we'd got to the end. Or we got to the early hours, haven't we? The night of the 5th, 6th of April with Wahroonga.
Yes.
Starting to buckle.
So there have been 16 attempts to attack the convoy during the night, is what Gretton reports.
Yes.
But we're through to 5 o'clock in the morning, and I can't remember when dawn is. But it's probably a way off, isn't it? If we're, and after all, which clock are we on? Oh, God.
Oh, yeah, we got all that as well, haven't we? That's getting confusing. Plus yes, 2.
It can't +2 or +4, we don't know. Anyway, but Wahroonga has discovered that its main bulkheads are starting to buckle. So they have to abandon ship. Vidette screening.
Well, remember that Vidette is the destroyer.
It's the destroyer that can nip about. That's basically been probably the busiest ship of the lot because it's the fastest and the most heavily armed, isn't it? Basically,
thank God it refueled before it all kicked off.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a moment of simple sort of grace, isn't there, in this entire thing that they thought to refuel. But that is the Royal Navy. You refuel whenever you possibly can. If you can possibly refuel, you do. Which is, after all, one of the mistakes that Bismarck makes, isn't it? Is they don't refuel.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, absolutely. So loose strife, and we'll remember this is a corvette that the captain of which Gretton has a dim view.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel he's the weak link. But anyway, Loose Strife has gone off to help pick up survivors, as has the J.R. Poinsett, which is obviously one of the merchantmen. So that's interesting that should be
that should be the case. I mean, maybe it's one of the quicker merchantmen, because they're all the ships are of different capability. That you might be a fast convoy, but some might be quicker than others, and others might be slow, or it's nearer. It's the nearest. And they pick up 41 crew. 20 minutes later.
By the way, just very quickly while we're talking about merchantmen, you know those HMSO sort of pamphlet books that they were produced in the war.
Yes.
they're sort of just a little bit bigger than A5, aren't they? And they've got a kind of, they're always illustrated with fantastic maps and photographs and all the rest of it, and written by someone quite good. Well, anyway, lovely Nick Champion got in touch and said he had a spare copy of Merchantment at War, and would I like a copy? Well, actually, I have already got one. I've got quite a good collection of that, so I suggested that he send it to you. So,
brilliant! Thank you, thanks, Nick. That's very sweet of you. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah,
excellent.
Nice. Anyway,
I'll take that.
That
anyway,
was a minor rabbit hole.
But what this means, though, is that's 5 o'clock in the morning at 5:20. Yep. So only 20 minutes after this all starts, this rescue of the Wahroonga, U-134, which is still in contact with the convoy, attacks the Poinsett and Loosestrife and Wahroonga with 3 torpedoes, but misses. So
thank goodness.
So it's all fingernails, isn't it? This whole thing is fingernails.
Yeah. So U-134, that means it should be one of the earlier ones.
Yeah.
You must have come across U-Boat.net.
No, I've not come across U-Boat.net.
U-Boat.net. Okay, it's got literally every single detail. So I've just put that into U-Boat.net. Okay.
Right.
So it was ordered on the 7th of August 1939. It was laid down on the 6th of September 1940. It was launched on the 17th of May 1941, and it's still going. In the early part of 1943, so that's good going. Commissioned on the 26th of July 1941 by Captain Lieutenant Rudolf Schendel.
Oh, Schendel, that's a show.
Schendel, yeah. Captain Lieutenant Rudolf. Schendel. But by this point, so he's in command till the 2nd of February 1943.
Yeah.
The 3rd of February 1943, a new Captain Lieutenant takes over, Hans Gunther Brosen. He is now the commander.
Right.
It does 9 patrols, sinking 3 ships. That's not great, is it? Total tonnage 12,147 tons.
That's not very much.
Yeah, it doesn't last much longer. Gets sunk on the 27th of August 1943 in the Bay of Biscay, north of Cape Ortegal.
Really?
In position 44.03 north, 080.05 west. By depth charges from the British frigate HMS Rover. So this is what you get: 48 dead, all hands lost.
Blimey!
So it's literally just off the north Spanish coast.
But as you kind of pointed out there, a captain or a commander not that good at pressing things home, because he's got three ships, one of which is sinking, and he can't hit that, and two ships coming in to help it, and he can't hit them. So perhaps a reflection that the Kriegsmarine hasn't got its best people on the job anymore, because they're
interestingly, it doesn't list Learnhart's as one of the Wolfpacks it works with.
Right, that's interesting.
So I don't know.
Okay.
Well, anyway, that's a little aside. But U-Boat, honestly, if anyone listening and you want to find out more, U-Boat.net is A1.
Excellent. Right, but the 6th, there's a big change.
Yes.
Which is the support group arrives from Iceland.
We're coming, boys.
Yes, and this is under Commander A.G. West, support group commander on HMS Inglefield. It's Eclipse, Fury, and Icarus.
Icarus is very famous. I wrote about Icarus in my Battle of Britain book.
Did you?
Obviously, in the bit before the Battle of Britain.
It's before the Battle of Britain, obviously.
Because I was writing about it at Dunkirk, which, as you know, I decided to include in my Battle of Britain book.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So Icarus was at Dunkirk, and it was very much a sort of these are old 1930s kind of old-fashioned escort destroyers. So fleet escort destroyers rather than convoy escorts.
Bigger and slower.
Yeah, they're still pretty good. They're still pretty good. They're just a bit kind of smokestacky, but they're still pretty good. There's not not much wrong with them.
And
incidentally, do you know how many Royal Navy destroyers were sunk in the Second World War?
No, I don't, James, but you do.
I do. 132.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, just imagine what that looks like. 132 destroyers gone.
God, that's a lot.
I know, because I always used to think, what would I do that would kind of give me a pretty good, you feel like you've done something, but not too dangerous, but you're kind of at the cutting edge. And I always kind of thought being in a destroyer would be great. Yeah. Now I'm not so sure.
Yeah. Well, and also it's all incredibly hard work and relentless, isn't it? I mean, we'll get to this. But two of these ships have Huff Duff. So the ability to spot stuff has increased hugely, because there's only one Huff Duff set in the escort group, isn't there? So
and they're faster and better gunned. So, they're bigger, faster, more upgunned. They've got 2 lots of Huff Duff. These are all destroyers. They might be 1930s destroyers, but they're still better than anything on offer on the current on B7 escort group.
And the air cover, more air cover, because they're getting that.
Yes.
They're that little bit closer to Iceland, and everything's. It's not that it's getting easier. It's getting marginally less difficult. I mean, this is the thing. This is all still as we will. I mean, the next, until 11 o'clock. So at 06:47, Tay chases a U-boat U-270. But they track it with ASDIC to 100 yards. They all see it clearly, and then it buggers off. 3 minutes later,
100 yards is nothing. That's kind of it's a little over 4 cricket pitches.
Yeah, it's the other side of the street. I mean, well, the other, the post office from my front door. They depth charge, but only drop 5 rather than 10. So basically, there's then cat and mouse, and this is inside the convoy. This is happening between the 7th and 8th. Yes. So the U-boats, U-270, he knows what he's doing. He's getting in amongst it. But his problem is he's about to run out of cover of darkness. It's about, daylight is coming. And at 8 o'clock, so an hour and 10 minutes later, a Liberator from 120 Squadron, Liberator E, arrives.
Yep.
And 2 minutes later drops a depth charge pattern, but U-270 gets away. But gets away, but is interfered with, is stymied, which is the thing we were talking about last week. It's all about stopping the enemy from pressing home its attacks, basically, making it difficult for him, as much as it is the destroying a submarine is a bonus. 0942. So Liberator E is sticking around. This is the point. At 0942, it spots a U-boat shadowing the convoy. They drop 4 depth charges while the boat's still on the surface. Submerges, reappears before diving. This is 594. And what does U-boat.net?
U-270 actually survives the war.
Really?
Manages to hit 1 ship in its entire career from being launched in July 1942.
Oh, dear.
It's decommissioned on the 25th of June 1944.
Oh, dear.
That's laid up in a U-boat pen, later repaired and returned to service in August 1944. And then sunk. No, it doesn't survive. And then it's sunk on the 13th of August.
All right, okay. U-594.
Another not very successful one. Yeah.
U-594, which is one that's just been depth charged and damaged.
Yes.
U-594 sunk on the 5th of June, 1943, in the North Atlantic west of Gibraltar in position 36.2 north, 1028 west by depth charges from a Hudson.
There you
go. All hands lost.
It's just that they all go.
Dead.
They all go.
Yeah.
Don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the amazing thing.
Captain Lieutenant Dietrich Hoffmann at the time we're talking about. No, it's not. It's Friedrich Mumm who's taken over.
Friedrich Mumm, yeah. Captain Lieutenant Mumm.
Anyway, so 594 is damaged. There's water coming the torpedo tank, one of the fuel tanks, and it had already been damaged by Vidette. So it's interesting.
So Mumm thinks it's time to bug out.
Yeah, he thinks, all right, that'll do. We've done our bit. They can look everyone in the eye when they get back to Brest or wherever. 0948, so 6 minutes later, Liberator T attacks a U-boat, U-592, which is crash dives and is damaged, and it's machine gunned the previous day. So that also, they sack it off. These crews are thinking, leave it ain't worth it. And also that these Liberators they can stick around, and this is making all the difference. And the thing about, the point Gretton makes about the Liberators, it's a big aircraft, so it's not nippy. So if it sees a U-boat, the U-boat does have time to if the U-boat crew alert, the U-boat does have time to get out of the way before you turn a 4-engine bomb around.
But by the same token, one of the things that we've been talking about is just, it's not about destroying U-boats. It's about driving them away from the convoy.
Yeah.
And then you can crash dive, that's fine. But the moment you dive, you're not really in a position to attack anymore.
But what we have here also, and we didn't mention this, is the flying conditions are bad. So it's 10 tenths cloud, and a cloud base is 700 feet. So imagine if you're in a U-boat and you're skulking along the top, having a look, suddenly a Liberator comes out of the cloud base and you're like, oh shit.
Yes. How did it know we were here?
How did it know we were here? And you're not going to hear it because of your engines and all that sort of stuff until it's right upon you. So This is why they're crash diving, isn't it? Like, oh God,
Well, yes, and it's also gives you good reason to kind of not press your attack that hard. I would say.
Yes. Well, which is the thing we talked about, I think, in the first or second of this series, is that the crews at this point, the U-boat crews, they're pretty demoralised and they're lying about what they've been up to and saying, "Oh no, we didn't." They're being pretty ambivalent about pressing on their attacks, and as I imagine I would be in this set of circumstances.
Yes. To be fair.
At 11 o'clock, U-270 surfaces, Inglefield and Eclipse. Inglefield being from the support group, and Eclipse.
Yep.
So they're in the picture now. They hunt U-270 into the afternoon.
So basically, 270's got to be underwater the whole time.
Exactly.
Much of it.
So no huff
and consequently, they don't get no more huff duff picked up at all until the last aircraft leaves at 19:35, so 7:35 p.m., which is just before darkness falls. It's now the beginning of
air cover all day.
Well, these Liberators can fly for 16 hours, can't they?
I know, it's amazing, isn't it?
I mean, 16 hours airborne. Jesus.
Yeah. Vedette's back with the Convoy, Lou Strife and JR Poinsett with the survivors of Warringer, and then they bring the stragglers back in. So it's all a lot more organised on the 6th, isn't it? It's all so they're bringing in Aruba, Mossdale.
Well, they can have a bit of a sigh of relief, can't they? I mean, jeepers.
Yeah.
And these are stragglers. These are stragglers who have not chosen to go away. These are stragglers because of mechanical issues or engine whatever or something. They've had to stop to kind of repair things. And
12:07. U-632 fires a torpedo at Inglefield but misses. At 1400 hours, U-706 sights a tanker, but the range is too great. You can in these you can read the crews going, that's too far away. It's too far away, boss.
Yeah, that's not bother.
There are Liberators everywhere.
Quite a lot of Liberators. There's all these extra destroyers. Better part of Valor. Live to fight another day.
Yeah. And then 86 Squadron arrives to take over from.
Yeah, they're operating from Northern Ireland. Remember?
Yeah. And then
we're getting closer.
And into the afternoon, 1618, U-boat picked up by radar by R, Liberator R of 86 Squadron, attacked with total surprise. Only one of 4 depth charge drops. The U-boat crash dives. Liberator R turned tightly and attacked again. Depth charge pretty accurate. Spaced for 90 feet, set shallow and drop. And they see they circle for 20 minutes and there's a large patch of oil seen. So
which is pretty kind of, there's not much you can sort of argue with that. You can argue bubbles that the U-boats can release to sort of suggest that they're sinking.
Yes, that's right.
But it's fake. But the oil, no. And this is the very same one that sunk the Blitar. Remember, is it the Danish one? Danish boat?
Or Norwegian.
I think. Yeah, they bugger off, don't they? They're the ones who leave the convoy early.
And this is U-632.
Mm-hmm.
And if you
first patrol,
oh my god!
I mean, they're just not good enough. They're not good enough for this.
Yeah.
Although they had sunk the Blitar.
2 ships sunk, total of 15,255 tons. Yeah. All hands lost, 48. This is. I mean, what's interesting is that the first couple of days were sort of on balance okay for the U-boats. They were sinking stuff. There were people fleeing the convoy. The air cover hadn't added up. But what we're seeing here is when Allied provision works, the U-boats they're completely snookered.
They've got a chance, have they? Yeah. So if you could send a convoy over with 10 escorts rather than 6, and half of which are destroyers, you're in a much better position, aren't you?
And there's air cover literally all day. Anyway, so U-632 is sunk. At dusk, there are still 8 U-boats shadowing the convoy, but there were 20 in the picket.
One's sunk, others have damaged, others have just
given
slipped
up the
away.
Decided discretion is the better part of valor. This speaks to the point we were talking about. If you don't have to sink them, but if you can make them. I mean, the U-boats are at less than half. They're at 40% strength from the beginning of this encounter. That's no good if you're donuts, is it? That's the thing.
No. So another day has survived.
Yeah,
they've survived, and no one sunk on that day on the 6th.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing because there's certainly going through the 5th. There's a feeling that it could go either way. That they're just and they are attacking on the 6th, but reading it back, looking across it, some of it feels a little half-hearted, which is again I get it.
Yeah. I think the interesting thing is you're getting the impression very clearly that the quality of U-boat command is just not as good. I'm thinking about that U-boat that was stuck in the middle of the convoy, didn't fire.
Yeah, but also
it's just unthinkable in the preen era.
Yeah, but the stuff they've contend with, Preen never had to contend with air cover till 6:30, 7 at night, did he?
He didn't. No, that is absolutely true.
It's not just, the circumstance, the Allies have succeeded in changing the rules of the game, basically. That's what's reflected here, as much as anything else. Preen might have thought, actually, this ain't worth it. We don't know, do we? So the next day, on the 7th, there's various sightings by aircraft of U-boats, but no further attacks, nor on the night of the 7th, the 8th, nor the 8th. Support group departs at dawn of the 8th of April. Job done.
Yes, and originally the support group is going to go on the 7th. It's just going to be there for 24 hours, but they get an extension. You're being so effective. It's so important that we get this convoy in. So hang around for another 24 hours. So they do. So they don't leave until dawn of the 8th of April. And by this point, they're kind of home. It is absolutely, they're into kind of, they're nearing England, nearing Northern Ireland, and they're kind of there. And the 9th of on the 9th afternoon, about 4 o'clock, 1600 hours, the local escort, so B7, the local escort arrives, takes over the safety of the convoy. And this is this really interesting bit. So this is the passage up, which is where I was doing my SPS paddle the other day. Past the Isle of Arran, Isle of Bute and all the rest of it. And you go up the passageway that leads up to the Clyde and Greenock and Gourock and all these places. It's Faz Lane, it's where the nuclear submarines are based now. It's that kind of neck of the woods. And it was amazing to be out there on the water there and sort of, imagining all these convoys coming in through this passage. But that's exactly where HX231 goes through. Yeah. And B7's, their job is done. And the escort group, heads up the River Foyle and goes back to base at Northern Ireland. Their work is the local escort takes over at this point. Not that a U-boat isn't going to be trying to get in there anymore, is it? They're not going to. No, exactly. Yeah. And Gretton makes an interesting point. He goes, the intricate machinery of the organisation, which controlled the routing of merchant ships, now took over. Some ships would go straight to their destination, some would immediately join coastal convoys, and some would wait at assembly anchorages for a convenient coastal convoy to take them to their eventual unloading port. So it's interesting, isn't it? Not all 61 sort of head up to the Clyde. No. They have different destinations.
They're plugged into the next thing that they've got to do. Yeah.
Yeah, and this goes back to the subject that John McManus and I were talking about the other day, which is who's organising all this. Every single ship has got a different cargo, and that cargo has an end point, and it's got to go somewhere. And there's a list with its name on, with its cargo on, and where its ultimate destinations are. But presumably it's got to go into another port, or it's got to be unloaded onto lorries, or probably more likely trains, and distributed wherever. But it's and
they're doing it
a process and a half.
They're not using Excel, are they?
They've got no spreadsheet.
No. Well, maybe there is a spreadsheet, but they're not using. It's not the way.
It's not courtesy of Microsoft.
No, exactly. So we'll take a break. We'll see you in a tick.
Looking for the right holiday outfits without breaking the bank? JCPenney is a one-stop shop for the whole family. Whether you're dressing up or dressing down, JCPenney has a great range of apparel for men, women, and kids. So you can spend less time doing this and more time doing this. Make your holidays count. JCPenney. Shop in store or jcp.com.
This episode is brought to you by Cricket Wireless. People who come to Cricket stay with Cricket. They also know which podcast ads to pay attention to. Sure, finding a new job sounds cool, and even we're a little curious about mail-order meals. But doesn't finding the phone of your dreams sound more fun? At Cricket, you can score deals on many of the latest 5G phones. Plus, you'll find the latest models from the brands you love like Samsung, Motorola, and so many more. We're talking about phones with serious wow factor. The ones with those fun features you tell yourself you don't need but are secretly jealous of. It's truly a sight to behold. So what are you waiting for? It's not just this ad giving you a sign, it's the universe. If your old phone's letting you down, maybe it's time to let go by switching to Cricket and upgrading to a phone that'll turn heads for a price that's sure to make you smile. Cricket 5G requires a compatible device and is not available everywhere. Fees, terms, and other restrictions apply. See cricketwireless.com for details.
This episode is brought to you by Google Pixel, the official fan phone of the NBA and WNBA. The new Pixel 8 and Pixel 8 Pro are built different. How? Take the Audio Magic Eraser tool that helps block out distracting crowd noise so your play-by-play commentary sounds crystal clear. The only phone engineered by Google brings out the audio you care about, so your videos sound as crisp as they look. Learn more at googlestore.com/pixelnba. Audio Magic Eraser requires Google Photos app. May not work on all audio elements.
Welcome back to We Have Ways of Making You Talk. Convoy HX231, you will be relieved to hear, dear listener, has made it across the Atlantic, despite our best efforts. I think we were more of a threat to it crossing the Atlantic than the U-boats were by the 6th of April, Jim.
Yeah, maybe.
Rabbit holing. And,
Yeah. It's possible.
So there's 6 ships lost, aren't there, on this convoy?
Yes, and I think it's really interesting of the ones that are lost. Only the Shillong, really. Shillong and the Warunga. Which one's a hit in convoy? It's the Warunga, British Arder, and Shillong, isn't it? Yeah. So 3 are hit in convoy, and other 3 because they go off on their own. Because
they've gone off. So Vararen, which has gone off, the Norwegian ship, everyone's lost. All hands lost. Tragedy. And you'd think if they'd stuck around, would that have been a different result?
Yeah, almost certainly. I'd have thought. I'd have said.
Yeah, I think so.
Because it's 6 out of 60.
British Arder, all but one of the crew are picked up. Warunga, 19 men are lost when 2 of the lifeboats capsized and are damaged, including the captain. I mean,
it's terrible. So yeah, it's just awful, isn't it? I mean, you got the lifeboat, you got out there, and then they capsize and So the Blitar, as we mentioned, was hit by U632 on its first one. There were 38 survivors from the number 2 boat, so all the lifeboats are numbered. Picked up on the 10th of April. Number 6 boat also picked up, so a total of 54 from Blitar rescue.
This terrible incident with Captain Kruger of U631, where he says 3 boats get away safely, and while they're trying to pick the men up from the water, submarines heard in the darkness, and the U631, which didn't sink the Blitar, appears.
Yep.
And they go through the boats. They want to know who's on the boats. Number 6 boat, they talk to the number 6 boat, but they're hidden under the men hide under the thwarts of the boat, and the submarine thinks the boat's empty. Then number 2 boat, Kruger says in English, "Where are the captain and the chief officer?" But neither are wearing uniform, so they say, "Dunno." He says, "Come alongside or I shoot." Right?
Yeah.
And this is Gretton's account. And when the efforts to get the boat to the submarine failed owing to the seas, he shouted, "Row for your lives. I give you 5 or 10 minutes." Eventually, the U-boat ordered one of the men from number 2 boat to jump into the water and swim to the submarine. And Captain Knipp, who's the captain, still saying that he's only an able seaman, sets off and is hauled aboard the U-boat. On board, he refused to give any more information. The ship had some hides in her cargo. He continued to deny vehemently that he was an officer, and the Germans obtained remarkably little information from him. The U-boat then informed the boats that the man being released and Captain Knipp was pushed into the water. The wind and sea were so strong that the boats were unable to make any headway towards him. They had the agonising experience of seeing the red light on his life jacket disappear, and his shouts died away. There died a brave man.
Oh, just awful. I mean, talk about a lonely death, because he's going to know, isn't he? There's going to be a moment where he realises it's lost. He's got no chance, and it's just a question of.
And he goes on.
You've got to confront.
Yeah,
you've got to confront what happened to you.
Kruger excused himself by saying that the submarine had next to proceed to a secret rendezvous with a milch cow tanker, and that no prisoners were allowed on board during the operation of fueling. But he could easily have dropped Captain Knipp nearer to the boats and ensured that he was picked up. This is what Gretton says. His conduct deserved trial for crimes against humanity at Nuremberg, but he did not survive to face his accusers. It was a suitable retribution that U631 was sunk by a member of B7 Group, the Sunflower, in October 1943. So there we go.
It's a terrible story, though, isn't it?
It's awful. Yeah. It's awful. And then the other 2. Well, no, the other 2 boats. Then off they go, and they have Javanese and Chinese crew.
That's right.
Who die of exposure. They're determined to sail to Scotland.
This is on the Blitar. This is the Blitar.
This is still the Blitar. The bravery of these men, the determination of these men. They're picked up by Canadian destroyer Restigouche. Number 2 boat, at least, are picked up by destroyer. And then number 6 boat are picked up by Eclipse, I think. They're spotted by a flying fortress and then picked up by Eclipse. I mean,
so 54 saved eventually.
Eventually, but just that story of the captain being thrown
it's awful,
back
isn't
in.
it?
It's horrendous.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely grim. It's absolutely grim.
Yeah.
Then we've got the Sun Oil, which is the tanker, the American tanker. So that's hit by U563 and finished off 7 hours later by U530. And all hands lost. Every single one goes down. And obviously some of them did escape, but they weren't picked up.
Yeah.
So, and Vedette, if you remember, Vedette is sent off to go and try and find them and report seeing absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
So obviously it's the middle of the Atlantic and they've just don't know what's happened to them. They've gone. Yeah. But again, another kind of sort of, agonizing, lonely death. Yeah. The Shillong, this is an amazing story. Yeah. So the Shillong, of a crew of 78, 33 are in one lifeboat and 24 on a raft. So most on the raft subsequently die. The raft capsizes 3 times. And do you remember we saw that picture, didn't we, of the raft? And it is literally like like those sort of shipping pallets you get. It's kind of like a giant one of those. It's absolutely hopeless. And by the morning, only 5 of the 24 are still alive. And they sight the lifeboat, the one lifeboat with 33 on, and manage to join them. And leading them is Cadet Moore, who's only 19. And in the lifeboat, there's 11 Brits and 28 Asians. And by the 10th of April, only 10 are still alive, 9 Brits and 1 Asian. And the theory about this is that the Brits, being Northern Europeans, are kind of better used to being exposed to cold weather and all the rest of it. I would also suggest that it's also that they're better fed.
Yes, and have been
got more fat on them than the Asians, who tend to be kind of, sort of skin and bones, really, don't they? And if you're kind of in the merchant navy, so they have got plenty of food, but they just don't have enough water. And by 10:30 a.m. on the 12th of April, they're finally spotted by a Catalina. They fire flares, and you then got the agonising wait that you've been spotted, but you then got to wait to be picked up. And it's not until 5 o'clock 1700 that a Norwegian destroyer, St. Albans, having already got the survivors of Blitar picks up these. Of the 10 alive, only 3 men fully recover, and all the rest have to have limbs amputated due to frostbite.
And an earlier on the night of the 5th and the 6th, the worst danger was from the large hatch covers floating near the boat, collisions with which would have shattered the boat. So Mr. McCrae, the 3rd engineer, stations himself in the bows and spends the night fending off the hatch covers with a boat hook.
Amazing.
He never complained, but at dawn he was so exhausted that quietly and peacefully he laid down and died. I mean, it's
it's amazing. These stories of these lifeboats and the endurance these people have to go through. It's the thing is we all kind of sort of ooh and ah, don't we, about Shackleton and his journey and the incredible thing from Elephant Island to South Georgia.
Yeah, he wanted to go.
He does. He kind of wanted to go. These guys are all sort of similar stories of incredible bravery and courage are happening every single day pretty much in the Atlantic, aren't they, during the war? And, most of them anonymous, forgotten about, never written about, and I think it's really important to stress that, we are just talking about one convoy, presumably the 231st on the Exec route.
Yeah.
It's not the other, all the other ones.
Well, there is a question to be asked here. Is if you're a Javanese or Chinese sailor, obviously the merchant marine has always been full of people from all over the world since the year dot, right?
Since the Phoenicians, right?
Yeah, exactly. But what's motivating these guys?
Money.
Is it money? Is there enough money? But Jim, is there enough money for this?
Well, no, but there's got to be a reason why they're doing it. They're not doing it out of pride of
it's not king
joining
and
the
country.
British effort, are they?
No,
it's not king and country. It's definitely not.
Which is, I think, really interesting, isn't it? Because so often when you look at what motivates people in combat, and this is combat. Let's make no mistake, right? Then soldiers would talk about the idea of you're looking out for your mates all the time as the thing that's keeping you going here. But if you're, like I say, if you're Chinese or Javanese or I don't know, an Egyptian or whoever on one of these ships, the pay can't be good enough. So you are heads down, won't happen to me. What's your attitude? What keeps you turning up for work? Aside from the fact you'll be in terrible trouble if you don't turn up for work. But do you know what I mean? These aren't pressed crews, are they? I think it's absolutely incredible. It's just enormously hats off. And I just think because no one's really interested in the merchant navy, they're so anonymous. We talk a lot about kind of, the forgotten campaign in Italy or the forgotten war in Burma or whatever. But actually, they get plenty of credit. And, anyone who's remotely interested in the Second World War, sooner or later, they'll come round to Italy and to Burma, won't they? They just will, as a matter of course.
But who looks into the Merchant Navy? Literally no one.
Anyway, thanks everyone for listening. We hope you've enjoyed getting HX231 home. We hope you've enjoyed our sort of ramblings and musings there. Although this is for me, this is where the action is in the podcast sometimes. Although actually, it's been really brilliant to tell a single story and look at how it reflects what's happening at the time and the way it's running out in 1943. We're about to say goodbye to 1943, though, aren't we?
Yes, we are. We enter a new dawn.
Yeah,
can't wait. 1944. Come on.
Yes, exactly. We will see you all soon. Thanks very much for listening.
Happy
Cheerio.
Christmas, everyone.
Yes, happy Christmas.